Hello everyone, friends. The United States Department of Health and Human Services, a principal agency of the federal government, has officially published crucial information that on December 17th in the year 2025, important letters began to be systematically sent to sponsors of immigrants, explicitly demanding full reimbursement for various government benefits that were utilized by their sponsored individuals. This was publicly announced by the Deputy Secretary of the Department, Jim O'Neill. If you are indeed a financial sponsor of an immigrant who is currently receiving various social benefits or other forms of essential taxpayer-funded assistance, then you are legally and morally responsible for fully paying for these benefits and services, ensuring their well-being and preventing them from becoming a public charge. This week, I sent letters to sponsors demanding repayment of these funds. And friends, we're not talking about random people here. We are specifically talking about those sponsors who have formally signed the legally binding so-called affidavit of financial support for an immigrant who is entering the United States of America, thereby taking on significant responsibilities. By signing it, the sponsor is legally obligated to ensure that the immigrant coming to the US will not become a burden on the American state, that is, on the American budget. And if any social benefits are received, or if the American government incurs any social expenses for this immigrant, the sponsor will be required to take on all those costs and reimburse the American government. These regulations have existed in US law for decades, but in practice, they were almost never enforced. Now, with the arrival of President Trump, the situation is changing dramatically. The letters refer to various social payments, comprehensive subsidies, essential medical assistance paid directly from the government budget, and extensive programs specifically designed for helping those in need. All of these funds that were spent from the programs I just listed on the immigrant, if that immigrant has a sponsor, the sponsor will be required to repay and reimburse them to the American budget. If these funds were received by immigrants who have an active sponsor, the government demands compensation specifically from the sponsor. And this applies both at the federal level and at the state level. According to American analysts, this is part of a tougher policy, meaning increased oversight, reduced government spending, and pressure on legal immigration channels. The American authorities, to put it bluntly, consider government assistance to be a last resort, not the norm as everyone has gotten used to. And now they have decided to actually enforce the obligations that previously existed only on paper and were hardly ever applied in practice. According to reports from American media, it is the Latin American communities that are most concerned because they are the ones who have started receiving these letters. Cubans and families who sponsored their relatives. Many sponsors had no idea that the responsibility could be so direct and have such a significant financial impact. Human rights advocates warn that this practice could sharply reduce the number of people willing to sponsor their relatives. In other words, this will ultimately decrease the number of immigrants. The US is returning to strict enforcement of old immigration regulations. What used to be considered, so to speak, dormant rules are now being put into practice and will be applied very broadly in reality. If you are a sponsor or planning to become one, you need to clearly understand the possible financial consequences of sponsorship. And friends, this is no longer just theory. This is the reality at the end of 2025 that is happening in the US. Friends, what do you think about this topic? Please share your opinion in the comments.